episode of She Means Business, the space where tech meets truth and women take the mic.
We're 4 women with 4 different paths through the tech world, and this podcast is where we finally get to say the quiet parts out loud.
100%. We're talking about imposter syndrome, messy career pivots, weird job interviews, microaggressions, the wild winds, of course, and everything in between.
Trust me, I am the queen of messy jobs, and you'll find that out later in the podcast. But this first episode is all about why this podcast matters, how we got here, what we hope to take away, and what we kind of want to achieve from every single episode. So let's get into that.
Yeah, so we thought it'd be nice to share a little bit about ourselves, our journey, how we got there, the path it took to get there, So why don't we just hop into that? I think a good question that we should start off with is, what's your role here and what's your origin story, basically? So I am the AI engineer at Bots for That. I think my background in tech really started off when I was in university. So I got my bachelor's in astrophysics, and at the time I knew I wanted to work with data. So I got this internship from a small but very impactful business in the San Francisco area. It was centered around partner profitability and data analytics. Shout out to Denise, shout out to Utah. But I loved it. I really loved it. And I thought, I could really make a career out of this. So once I graduated with my bachelor's, I ended up working at this same company for 3 more years. And then I thought, okay, well, I've done the data analytics portion. I think I want to go bigger. I want to go to big data. So I decided to go back to uni. I got my master's in data intensive astrophysics because I wanted to work in that big data space, that machine learning and AI. And it all kind of panned out, and I'm here, and I'm loving it. I'm the AI engineer here, and I think it's awesome.
Amazing. Sounds like you literally had a plan for that journey.
Yeah. It feels like I had a plan right now, but as I was going through it, I really had no clue what I was doing. I deferred from uni for 3 years because I thought, maybe I won't be able to do it. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe this or that. But then I kind of ran out of excuses by the end of those 3 years because of COVID, right? So I was like, well, if I don't go now, I might not ever. And it was like the best decision I've ever made.
Amazing.
No, that's cool. I mean, I can relate to the not having a clue where you're going. Like, whenever I left school, I was like, good at tech. I don't know if I actually want to spend the rest of my life doing this. So I took a punt on a foundation degree in multimedia, and then ended up in like a small design studio in Portadown. Spent 2 years there, finishing off the foundation degree, finishing off my degree, and then went to one of the big companies in Belfast. And I hated every second. I honestly, being a part of a massive company, it may be for some people, but I hated being a cog in a wheel. There was no decisions, you were given your set tasks, and it was in the middle of COVID, and I was like, I can't do this forever. So I was like, no, I need to change. And I found an automation company in Lisburn, and I was a front-end developer from there. Liked it. It was great. The people were great. It was a smaller, more intimate atmosphere than you get when you go to a big company. But of course, it had its problems. It went into liquidation, and that in itself is where you get your messy jobs from. And probably about 2 years ago now, I ended up in Bots for That. Started as the business analyst and moved up to being the product owner of the Beaniverse. And from there, I've just loved it because I'm kind of bossy and like making the words.
That's my manager.
I really resonate with some of the stuff that you say, when you go into big corporations, like anything to do with the culture, and especially in a really male-dominated industry, is really tough, and it's also quite wild as well. But you tend to realize a lot of things, and it's almost internalized in that sense. But my background has been varied, but it's just one of those things where you start to question that, are you living in a man's world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially in tech, it is a boys' club to start with. We are an underrepresented minority, but we're making strides every day, and that's what this podcast is going to be here for. This is what we're going to be here for, the highs, the lows, and how to overcome those as well, and give you the tools and tips that you guys need to not make the same mistakes that we did along the way.
Right. And we'll cover things like imposter syndrome, the glass ceiling, you know, touching on the really heavy parts that are not really talked about, but are really important to bring up in this day and age.
It's one of those as well, like, you know, when you mention these, and it's just going back to the whole thing, like, do you have a background in tech? And if I were to answer that based on, you know, my university degree, any place that I've worked before hasn't heavily been focused on tech. And I think maybe there was like a side of me where, I don't know, when you're in uni and you started learning about like quantum science or computing and stuff. And it's like that world is just like fascinating. It's almost too far in reach to actually like take it and feel like you can do it. And I think that's maybe like one doubt that I've had. And I kept like looking for smaller businesses to work for where the culture is really good collaborative team. And I mean, look at me here now in a startup,
Yeah.
in the tech industry, within customer success. So
You're where you're meant to be.
I feel like I'm where I'm meant to be.
Yeah. Well, I haven't got as much to say on my background because this is my first job. So I'm a bit of a baby, but I am the digital marketing assistant here, and my journey sort of changed as I went through uni, because when I first started, I was very much like, yeah, I'm going to have my own business. That's what it's going to be when I leave. But then COVID hit as well, and then my course, I sort of didn't enjoy it. Like, it's not what I thought it was going to be.
What was it?
So it was fine art.
Creative.
It was
Cool.
creative, but it put me and my friends off art in the end. We all of us, none of us have been as creative since we've left, because just the way they perceive it, you know, like you were seeing a black canvas and they're like, yeah, so this is art.
It's all about interpretation, right?
Yeah, but when we did art, they were so critical of it. They tried to get me to stop painting, and painting is like my favourite thing to do. And I was like, you know what, I'm just so fed up. And then I finished my final painting, not listening to them, and then I didn't really paint for a while since. And I was like, yeah, you know, I don't want that anymore. But I knew I still wanted a creative role, and that's when I got into my digital marketing, because I find businesses, like the whole concept, really interesting, of like how to run your own, how to grow one, how to keep on going. It was just really interesting. And then obviously all this technical stuff with like Google Ads and stuff just like consumed my brain. I was like, oh, this is so techy. I love it. And then yeah, I've ended up in an AI company, which is even better, because you know, you're learning all about how technology is transforming, and to be able to have a place in that is just really exciting. Yeah.
So I guess, is that your why? Or why you came to Box for that in the end?
Yeah, that is my why. And then, yeah, again, the company culture here is amazing, so that's my why to stay, you know. it's like my second home now, really. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that is what makes or breaks a career, especially in the tech industry. I found that, you know, the last company before here was also an automation company as well, and the people behind it, like, you can build 1 billion products and you can provide a service anywhere. You can do it in your bedroom, on eBay, whatever you want to do, but it's the people behind that makes the journey along the way, and it's the support. Like, I love going to Cardiff and watching Connor and Sophie write on the whiteboard and watching her picture with Phil. It's the things that make the company alive, and you know, if you're involved and engaged with the people, you're never going to feel like you're actually working.
Right, that's true, yeah.
That's it. Like, what really I took from what you said then was, you know, anyone can start their business. It could be a product, something you sell on eBay, you know, it's there for profit. And I think one thing that I really value is the people, you know, the social value of that, and having the people that trust you. Like, it makes it so much so engaging. Like, I feel empowered.
So much support goes behind that connection, you know?
Yeah.
It's really nice.
So what's the kind of moments, I guess, that sort of shaped you into where you want to be?
God, that's a good question.
Or where you're going? Because you might necessarily stop here. who knows
That's
where you want to be in the next 5 years.
I mean, one of the biggest moments for me was honestly when I got hired, because I was, I felt like a baby AI engineer. I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I do, but I don't, but I do. And having to build an AI agent in less than 2 weeks to prepare for the digital accountancy show, I was like, wow, actually, I can do this. I can do this. Like, I'm smart enough. I deserve to be here. I really deserve to be here, so.
And I do think that's one thing that everybody probably in this room needs to remember, to back yourselves, that you are here because you are bosses in your own fields. It's not about having the knowledge, it's about how you carry yourself. Knowledge can be learned.
Mm-hmm.
It's the personality and how you commit to that that'll make the product in the end.
I think like thinking about it, I'm like, oh, is there like one point in my whole either education or academic journey or career journey where I feel like there's been one moment that's shaped me in a way to be here, like get where I am now? And I like can't pinpoint one thing. I think it's just
Collective.
yeah, it is. It's an accumulation of many experiences, and I think it was a godsend to get the interview at Bots for that, because I really wanted to work for a startup with a really close team where I knew that I could be creative, I could wear different hats, I could just be trusted and know what I'm doing is the right thing and completely own my journey. And I think I touched upon like there's no linear way of then pinpointing one thing that's happened that made you have that like aha moment, like I'm there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It just feels like it's sort of like little stepping stones to
Planting
building up.
those seeds.
Yeah, to then create who you are now and the direction you're taking. I don't think there's one. Yeah, I don't think there's one moment specific.
Disagree on that one. More so because I have some big boulders in my career that I've had to overcome along the way, and we'll talk about it in episode 2. But the liquidation really did play a hard role in deciding whether I actually want to stay in the industry in the first place. And B, actually it taught me that I liked making decisions and talking to the key stakeholders and figuring out what that company vision looked like.
Yeah.
And that ultimately led me to meeting Daniel.
So it was all worth it.
It was worth it in the end. All the emotional damage. It was worth it in the end.
Well, you say that your journey wasn't very smooth. Was there other things that happened throughout your journey that was kind of not expected for you?
Yeah, so when I did my final year in uni, I was working at Domino's.
Yeah.
Keeping it real, so it's with their pizza deliveries, but I was working at Domino's. I was doing it maybe probably from about 6 o'clock in the evening to 3 o'clock in the morning, or to close or whatever. And then I was going up the road, driving 2 hours to go to university, driving back down, and then going to the web studio to actually learn something. And I thought when I left uni, didn't know where I was going to go. Ended up in Belfast, which was a great stepping stone, but it also showed the massive disconnect between what the university taught you, the foundations, the theory behind it all, and the actual practice,
The reality.
of what that looked like, because it was so vastly different. I was like, was my degree even worth it?
Right.
Got you now.
Maybe let's talk about why we're doing this.
Yeah, the podcast.
What made each of us say, you know what? Let's start a podcast and let's make our voices heard. Let's be loud about it. You know, unleash it all.
Yeah. I think for me, it was more about those side conversations, not necessarily talking about things to fix it, but just to vent and to get to know each other. And then understanding that, oh, these people are actually feeling the same way that I'm feeling. And I never saw that or heard that represented in the media or anything like that, right? So I'm like, oh, like, if I can identify with these people, maybe somebody else might want to identify with that as well. Because I know growing up, I never really thought that I was smart. I never really thought that I was capable of doing stuff. Really, up until I got my master's, I didn't think that I was smart at all. So I feel like maybe having a place where people can come together and identify and hear stories of people who have been through that same journey, kind of, if I can help one person, that would be amazing, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Sort of having a platform for people to go to be like, oh yeah, that's me. That's literally me. I've been waiting to find this, and now it's there. You know, I mean, as we all know, working in the tech industry, we can see there's a big difference between women and men. There's a lot more men out here than women, so we can feel a bit alone sometimes, but I'm glad we got each other now. But yeah, sort of sharing stories for people to relate to and think, yeah, it is possible. You know what? I do want to enter a career in tech, and there's nothing that's going to stop me.
Right.
I think that's
Yeah,
super
it was the interviews for me. Like to interview 40 people and only have 2 women. I was like, this is shocking. I know, like we're in an industry where it's all about innovation, it's all about diversity, but that isn't reflected necessarily in the companies that we're at. You know, and we're trying to raise awareness that there is a place for everybody. It is inclusive to everybody, and that even if you don't know if tech is where you want to be, even to just dip your toe in and see what it's about. And if this podcast reflects that, then, you know, we've done our job. Probably the most important thing for me is I think all 4 of us have probably been looking for that leader all the time to sort of look up to and have those aspirations with. And if we're always looking forward and looking for somebody to lead us, who's going to lead the generation behind us? And why shouldn't it be us?
good point.
I completely agree. I think for me, what I've learned the most is to use your voice, like not falling into that vulnerability trap.
Yeah.
You know,
For sure.
where it's like, what happens if I do say something? What happens if I don't? But when you ask yourself, if you don't say something, you just internalize it. And I used to like turn to writing and stuff. And I didn't feel like I could like have trust with a lot of people that I've worked with previously to actually action what needs to be taken, or know that there is something within that company that's going to support you, and not just the people, the whole foundation of it. But I feel like what we want to do is create a space where you don't have to pretend everything's okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely, you'll be involved in my breakdowns all the time. Whenever the product team has a new product coming here standing, you'll see what that really looks like.
Yes.
But,
absolutely.
you know, we're a startup company as well. We're still learning, and we want to take you on what we've learned as well, the things that haven't worked, the things that will work. Obviously, when we started this, we did a bit of reflection on the company culture in itself, and there's still things that, you know, we need to work on. We need to look at the staff advocacy program. We need to look at the staff engagement to see where everybody's at and how we can be better.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're so lucky to have like quite a few leaders on this team who are willing to step in and back us in that journey through, you know, speaking about what is it that you said? What was it? It was the speaking about the stuff going on behind the scenes, you know. Yeah. So we're so lucky to have a group of leaders here that are stepping in and supporting us and talking about those issues for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would probably say that we wouldn't be sat here if we didn't feel supported.
Well, no,
Absolutely not.
So let's take a wee segment away from why it matters. What do you think at the minute is missing in the tech industry? Why do you think there's such a gap between reality and the shiny glass version that is portrayed against when you look on LinkedIn and social media?
That's a good
question. That's a good question.
I think there's so much hype around breaking into tech, like the way that automation's moving the industry, it's so fast paced. But no one really talks about what happens once you get into it and how hard is it to stay, you know?
I think there's also a lot of invisible labor that women do specifically in the tech industry. Like, you know, you go to a meeting and you are the designated note taker, even though you're just as deserving to be there as not a note taker. Or, you know, people say, oh, you're so articulate, when you're just the same as everyone else, you know. I don't know, there's that extra emotional work that women do, especially women of color, and nobody really talks about that.
I think there's an emotional roller coaster with the industry in general, especially startups and that sort of small to mid-level sized businesses, because you do wear so many hats, you go through so many emotions on a day-to-day basis, and it's trying to manage them as well. But I think there's been a lot of ask in the last couple of years for showing your emotions as well. Like, I don't think it should be frowned upon to be showing your feminine energy as well. It needs to be included, it needs to be accepted, because that is who you are, and at the end of the day you need to be yourself. And you need to be true to yourself. Take today, like I was sitting at the desk, put my makeup on, getting ready, because that's what makes you feel good. And why shouldn't you do that just because it's for you?
Right, exactly. I completely agree. I mean, when you mentioned the many hats and sort of wanting to be yourself, you know, that can be such a struggle, and also reason for burnout, because you're trying to maintain this certain stature and sort of look about you, because you can't be too much of this and you can't be too much of that. And
a lot of personal policing, kind of, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And it is exhausting trying to sort of mask yourself the entire day.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, although you may have your own self-doubts, it's that you grow. As you get older, you grow with confidence, and you sort of learn that, you know what, you need to back yourself. Because yes, your employer's going to back you, and yes, you'll have leaders that'll back you, but you need to back yourself first before anybody else is going to do it
Ultimately,
too.
yeah. And that's the most important part, is backing yourself. Like, yeah, you have your support team, you have your managers, you have everyone, but you gotta back yourself.
Heavy topics, but definitely one that we need to talk about. And I almost feel like this sense of relief about sitting here with the three of you and actually just, you know, putting it out there. The amount of times where I've had those, like, in my head conversations about it, and too scared to actually be like, you know what, am I self-doubting myself, or do I not have the resources to actually make me feel successful with what I'm doing? And I think this is the podcast where we're going to unpack it all, and it's not with shame but honesty.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's what we're doing, right?
Right.
Dash of humor.
Why not?
It doesn't matter who you are, what you are,
100%.
you can grow and learn from this.
So, I mean, I think ultimately this podcast is going to be touching upon a lot of themes like we talked about, like imposter syndrome, burnout, maybe identity, success redefined, things like that. We're going to bring on all types of guests. Women, men, obviously Daniel, our CEO, is going to be on here and talk about partnerships with allyship, you know.
Yeah, because not every man is the enemy at the end of the day, and it's important to recognise that, you know, there are some male
supportive
counterparts that are supportive of the environment and inclusive to everybody.
Right. And we also want you guys to engage too. We want to have these conversations with you, answer questions, maybe do some live talks together. Ultimately, we just want to have a space of community where you can listen to different guests talk, you can listen to different opinions, and we just hit the hard stuff, you know.
We just want you to be a part of it all. So any questions, any feedback you have, we will listen, because ultimately we're here to help you guys as well as help ourselves along the way.
Yeah. And we want this podcast really to be a mirror and like a microphone and a megaphone, really, to have our listeners hear their own stories echoed, and also to be challenged to grow.
This isn't just four voices talking at you. You're at the table with us now having this dialogue, so you're part of it.
So before we wrap up, I think we should all just share what we hope people will feel after watching this episode or listening to this podcast. I think for me, I hope that at least one person will walk away feeling less alone, having found a sense of community, a space for them to listen to and identify with. Maybe a moment of relief and recognition that there are other people out there who are like you and who, you know, are in the same space as you. Maybe some confidence in there too. Just because, you know, you doubt yourself doesn't mean you're not capable. Don't doubt yourself. You are capable, you know.
You need to remember that too.
Yeah.
I feel like it could almost be like someone's aha moment finding this podcast. It's like, what? I have found the place for me. You know, sort of, we hope that the advice we give you sort of motivates you to take the steps that you maybe were too scared to take in the industry. And again, like you said, sort of having that feeling of relief that, yeah, there's more people out there like me, and almost to bring a sense of community. You know, it's not just us that are going to be available to talk to, it'll be other listeners too. Sort of being able to engage with each other through the podcast, I think that's going to be something really nice to have.
I think what I really hope that you take from it is that you hear your own stories echoed and that you have permission to be allowed to take up space, to talk. And that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. Ultimately, we are four voices, but we also want to be your voice as well. So we will take you through the messy stuff. We'll show you how the tools and tricks that we have learned over the years to counteract those messy moments so that you can live the highs as much as you can. But we want to thank you for listening and for showing up with us this week. Next episode, we will show you what it's like to get into tech and what our origin stories are and a bit more depth and detail so you can get to know the faces behind the camera.
Yeah, we have our first guest on the podcast, Debbie Spooner. Welcome to Debbie.
It's going to be really fun. So since we're just getting started here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button because we're going to be back with the bigger and better topics.
Absolutely. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and stay kind.